Well, as you can see, Alera is busy with her AI. Trying to apply it to sports.
Being a baby boomer. Poor thing.
I didn't say
well,
that.
You didn't have to say it.
I didn't say that.
Thank you.
And I don't want to say that really. It's just, I mean, why state the obvious? You know?
I'll have you all know that Ayo has done nothing but insult me all morning. Because I'm a boomer. And he is a Gen Z, right? Or is it Y? Gen Y?
I'm in the latter gens. Don't forget that there is a lost generation. You're not part of those ones. So, we're talking about the first conversation we had. Of course, you saw where it tapered into the fact that we can use AI to predict certain things concerning security, which is what Lady Thompson was talking about.
So why are we not using it?
Well, maybe we don't understand it. Let's get some understanding this morning. We have two experts who will be dealing with that conversation with us, because there are those who believe that artificial intelligence, that's AI, can aid Nigerian government, for instance, and our entities, government agencies, by automating tasks and all those things. And you also talked about something that AI can do the other time, that AI can help predict what can happen to some infrastructure.
Yes.
Yeah. So if that is a fact, right, what do we need to do? Wait a minute. I've been hearing AI. What is AI? What does it mean? Okay, because one of the contentions that I had in my head is, okay, well, you know, my colleague says I don't know, but she says she's a baby boomer. But then most of the people who are in government today are from Gen X, right? They're Generation X. Do they understand AI enough to embrace it for good governance and all? Thankfully, we also understand that Nigeria is already in the process of coming up with what they call a national AI policy. All of that is in the mix this morning. We have two gentlemen join us to discuss it. Kingsley Order is an AI ethicist and researcher. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
You have to educate us on what that means.
Of course.
Sure.
And we also have Mr. Dotun Adeoye, an AI transformation leader, joining us virtually. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Okay. Maybe I should take a bit of an introduction from you. You've done work in that kind of space for some 30-odd years. And, of course, I don't think I can say that AI is that old yet. But take us through what this understanding that people need to have about AI is, particularly people who are much older, perhaps too old, to understand what all of these technology things mean. I often say that the grandmothers of tomorrow, they will be holding technology in their hands. Help us understand, for those who do not, this artificial intelligence. What does it mean?
Thank you very much, Ayo. AI, artificial intelligence, is actually not a new technology. It's been around since the 50s. The current wave is quite exciting, but AI is typically a set of algorithms or robots that are sort of working on models and things that have been programmed into it to carry out certain tasks. So if you think about a lot of things that happened to us in the evolution of smartphones, emails, Alexa, Netflix, YouTube, most of these are being powered by AI. If you have a smartphone in your hand, you're already using AI. If you watch YouTube, if you watch Netflix, if you use emails, you're already using AI. So it's not that a parochial technology like most set it out to be. Is what you're using every time. I'm sure you have a smartphone in your hand, Ayo, and it's not a new technology, so we should embrace it, and there's a lot of promise and potential from AI.
Well, you just reminded me of an image that I saw once, a calculator, a clock, calendar, about 6 or 7 things that we would normally use individually, a pen, a paper, all surrounded a smartphone and said you took our job. Is that what has happened?
Well, when we look at the question of AI, I know that there are several contentions as to what AI is, and if you look at it universally, there have not been a predefined definition that suits what exactly AI is. That suits what exactly AI is. But one of the things that we see that looks a bit acceptable is a definition that was made by the OECD, that's Organization for Economic Cooperation Development. Though they updated their definition late last year, but they defined it as a machine-based system which can, based on human principle or based on human objective, make predictions. So you see that the question of AI in itself, it is not a thing that has to do with just a foreign machine that comes to just hijack things and make people jobless, or hijack things and make people confused. But you see that there are machines that, based on what the objective, a person behind the scene has imputed, then it gives a prediction, just saying premise 1, premise 2, premise 3, and then the conclusion. So AI in itself has, yes, it has some machines, some softwares have made life easy, but in itself, AI is not a robber that's come to probably like a thief in the night, that's stolen everything and left everybody amazed. So it's something that has been around for a while. I refer to, most of us have entered the bank, that you see something talking to you, enter left, enter right. Do we know that in the past years, they are not as sophisticated as you can have them now. But the question of AI, the subject of AI, has been around for a very, very long time.
Now, Kingsley, I saw a video yesterday online, and it was tagged AI at work, even though after watching, there's a commentary at the bottom that says, oh, computer generated. But it showed a robot on a farm harvesting wheat. And of course, I mean, it's a robot, so it's a machine. It was working like a machine as opposed to having, so it was harvesting maybe about 20 times what a human being would harvest in the same amount of time. But it then said at the bottom, computer generated. Is it possible for that kind of thing to happen, for a robot to be programmed to actually go to the farm and just all day?
Oh, okay. So when we look at and when I refer to AI here, I refer to things that are within the class, artificial intelligence, robots, because they are all under classification of what we call foundational models. Now, how these particular things work is that human define some set of objective. For instance, you can record how people harvest, let's say, tomatoes. So you can give several instances of how potatoes or tomatoes are harvested, and humans have different ways of getting their harvest. First instance. Second instance, we have several types of tomatoes. And there are times probably where there is ripe tomatoes. We have time where it is unripe. We have times where it is spoiled. So based on the attitude of human and the nature of tomatoes, all these are compounded together as data, and the algorithm is fed with it. So that when you get to this market, when you get to this field, and also the question of the type of land would also be considered, because we know that tomatoes grows differently on different lands. And also, when you're dealing with tractor, there are different lands that exist. So looking at all these things are instances we call data. So you feed the machines with this data, and then the machine go ahead to give you a result from those predefined objectives.
I think this gives me a bit of understanding. Let me ask you that question, Mr. Ade. So essentially, you're saying, if you agree with Mr. Wadara here, essentially you guys are saying that your AI or performance of your AI is as good as the information or the data you feed it, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if that be the case, knowing, experience here in our country, in the different states,
where there's no data,
that we have difficulty gathering significant data. How do we solve that problem? How do we then engage AI for good governance if we do not have sufficient data to feed it to give us the kind of results that we want?
Thank you very much, Ayo. The lack of data in Nigeria, I think, is a fallacy. We have data everywhere. I think the question is, where are we storing this data? If we think, let's take a very simple example of identification. So you have NIN, you have the driver's license, you have BVN, you have the national passport, Nigerian passport. You have registration in different layers and tiers of government. So the question then is, all this data you give when you get your NIN, or for you to open a bank account, or for you to get a Nigerian passport, where are these data stored? So it's not that we don't have data. I think in terms of part of what my organization, AI in Nigeria, is doing, is pulling together these stakeholders to say, let's do things differently. Let's see how we can potentially pull together these data and use them in a more sensible way for governance. Because if you look at model systems that are usually alluded to, there's always the issue of data. It's how you make your data become structured to be able to use it for the purpose of governance or business or whatever purpose. So, have data in Nigeria, but how do we use it is the question. And
perhaps,
how do we ready enough to be used?
Yes, you also talked about how we store it. Well, there are those who would agree with you that we have data, but perhaps mostly scattered. Police has data, banks have data, road safety has data, who else? Various, people that people have to deal with. Immigration has data. Sorry?
Identity agencies.
Identity agencies, those you just have to show your face, show a form of identity that, okay, this is who I am, this is where I am. So all of that is there. So you're talking about the challenge of harmonizing the data first, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So where do we go from there? Because one of the challenges we've had over time is that of collaborations between the federal government agencies and state government agencies in some cases, and also that of even the ministries, departments, and agencies themselves collaborating to get things done. So how do we go from there? Where do we go from there? How do we achieve that harmonization and collaboration in a way that everyone will know that we're all working for the same purpose?
Thank you very much once again, Ayo. That's a good question, because there always has to be a catalyst. And part of what we notice is the existence of silos, which is the elephant in the room. The police, immigration, multiple tiers of government. And we are kicking off a conversation which we've started having with different stakeholders within this sphere. And we're pulling together an annual get-together, which, at the end of February, we're going to bring a lot of the stakeholders from the private sector, public sector, the civil society, the education sector, and different tiers of government, that we do have data in different locations, stored in different formats, largely unstructured. How do we harmonize it for the benefit of Nigeria and Nigerians? I was watching a program of Sunrise some time ago when we, you were referring to about the changing of, when we choose leaders, we're thinking about the president or the leader, but we should be looking at the engine of the car, not just changing the driver. And I think that the key here is we need to look at the processes that we have for data to help us. And it's very important that we work together in different tiers of government within the country to make things happen.
Well, let me come to Mr. Wadara. Talking about government engagement now, you happen to be part of a volunteer force, a volunteer group.
Volunteer expert group.
Volunteer expert groups.
Yes.
Okay. Are you a baby boomer? No, you're not.
Of course not.
you help us understand. Nigeria is coming up with a national AI policy. We've been trying to get through to NIPTA. We've not been able to achieve that yet. Efforts made even as far as yesterday, as close as yesterday. Help us understand what this national AI policy will achieve. What's it about? What will it achieve? Because the challenge has always been that of communicating fantastic ideas or policies to the people.
Okay, so I'm speaking as Kingsley here,
Obviously.
not as the federal government,
No.
not as NIDA. Yes,
That's why we didn't call you by any title.
Oh,
we
great.
are just an ethicist.
Yes. So I'm speaking at Kingsley here. And when we look at globally, when we look at the idea of policy usually is to guide in the usage of an affair. And often than not, policies lack what we call enforcement mechanism. Unlike you have laws, where laws we tell you that part of the structure of a law is that you can see creation of committees. For instance, the Data Protection Act that was recently released last year, you will see creation of committees or commission or bodies that would help to ensure that there is strict adherence to the work or to the provisions of the act. But in the case of a policy is just like a guide. So we'll talk about the national AI policy, and this is based on the public documents that was released by NITA. Is basically to help now the policy adopted what we call a form of thematic area, just to help to address some specific sector in Nigeria, talking about the communication sector, energy, health, education, just to help in the proper guidance on how to use artificial intelligence, ways those things can be used, advantages, and basically how to get the best of those sectors using artificial intelligence. So the idea is just to guide on how to use it, because when people are not guided, it is either they don't use it or they abuse it. So that's just the whole idea. Okay. So it's not a regulation that has, because it's not released, and I speak based on the information that NIDA themselves released on the internet.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Adeoye, you said that AI has been around for a few decades. Yes. I'm reading something here that says AI tools can analyze government spending and resource allocation, thereby promoting transparency and accountability in the decision-making process. If AI has been around as long as you say it has, how come we haven't been using it in governance? And how come our systems are so fraught with loopholes that lead to all the corruption that we hear about?
Thank you, Alero. I think AI was coined by John McCarthy in 1956, the word AI, artificial intelligence. And like most evolving or new technologies, it takes a bit of time for most sectors of any polity or any country to adopt technologies. If you think about the different types of AI and format of AI or injection of AI, it's been used in one format or the other, but there has to be a champion to drive the adoption of new technology. And also the adoption of new technologies take a bit of time when you look at the adoption curve of any new technology or innovation. So there are challenges within Nigeria that we know in governance, and using AI will make things better. Yes, we may not have used it the way it should be used, but part of what is beginning to happen now, we have a youthful population of 60+%. So the push and the drive to use AI by both the younger generation and a bit older generation is beginning to take momentum. You just referred to the national AI policy or strategy. If we think about that happening now, we never have that. We never had that before. So I'm not speaking for the government, but what I would say here is that it's good that we are beginning to have conversation. And you also have organizations across Nigeria that are promoting and pushing these conversations to happen. So I am projecting that in the near future, very soon, AI will be more prevalent within the governance of Nigeria and different parts of even the private sector.
Interestingly, the NITDA that we've referred to quite a few times here has what they call a special purpose vehicle called the National Center for Artificial Intelligence and Robotics. But let me ask you, Mr. Adey, what considerations do you think we need to take into account to ensure ethical and responsible use of artificial intelligence for governance?
Okay, so AI ethics is getting more and more prevalent, especially given the current wave of generative AI and AI widespread adoption, which led to the AI Safety Summit that happened in Bletchley in the UK last year. The adoption of AI ethics in governance is one of the things that organizations like NITDA has to promote. NITDA is an organ of the government that represents the people. And when there are more advocacy from different interest groups within the stakeholder group, then the government will take note of this clamoring and interest. There has to be a champion for AI ethics. There has to be almost like someone responsible. Yes, NITDA, but I will go further to say there has to be someone appointed either by NITDA, within NITDA itself, or from a responsible arm of the government to actually oversee this. In terms of regulating AI, looking at AI ethics, it's evolving across the world because when you look at any form of technology or innovation, it gets to a time when the government cannot fold its arms again. And I think the EU AI Act and the AI regulation organ that was also released in the US are two key things that the Nigerian government, NITDA, and whatever regulator that will be looking at the AI ethics and regulation want to do will be a benchmark. So there's a lot of opportunity and scope for AI ethics in terms of Nigeria. Yes.
Well, you know, one of the challenges that I've had, Mr. Wadara, is the people. I mean, Mr. Adey was talking about the people representing, NITDA is an organ of government representing the people. Those people, as has been established, we're already using AI, but we are not even aware that we are using artificial intelligence. The awareness of it. So the challenge that I think he is also speaking to, which should be a concern, perhaps one of the considerations, is the caution that people need to take, because when the use of a thing is not known, abnormal use is inevitable. So how do we forestall that? What are the information that people need to be getting ahead of time so that we can prevent the abuse?
All right, thank you. This question just also takes back to the previous question, about AI ethics. You see, when it comes to the use of artificial intelligence, most times, especially in third world nations, or let's say especially in Nigeria, one of the things that's happened to people is that they have excitement. Just imagine you're using like a generative model, and you just type, let's say for instance, a generative model that can do text to image, and you type, I need a photo of a man sitting in the office. And before you know it, brings out a photo. And because of the excitement of getting what you want, you start to feed those things with your personal data, which ought not to be. Which means that those models, they would give a disclaimer. For instance, ChatGPT will give a disclaimer that they do not use users' data to train their model, right? Some will tell you that. But the fact is that artificial intelligence in itself is powered by data. And the thing is, the model ought to be better. So the more info, the more data you give about yourself, about your situation, about things surrounding you, the more it gets better, it personalizes the response. But at the same time, you are giving it, you are opening the back door to have access to yourself. So the idea about having a good governance of AI, especially in Nigeria, outside the fact that we are referring to having like a data infrastructure, we are having the question of skill and acquisition. The public awareness is also a key component. Why you have to tell people that, yes, these things are giving you what you want, but there are limits to what you can put in it for your safety. And we also know that AI tools or AI algorithms are prone to what we call hallucination. Yes, hallucination means that it can just give you what it thinks it is right, and it's not right. But as a person that would not employ due diligence, would just pick all the information and act on it.
Oh dear. So even in using AI, you still have to cross-check sometimes.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, ChatGPT will tell you, I'm not as intelligent as you think I am.
Yes, yes. Because these things, apart from the fact that people shout, bias and discrimination, hallucination is part of it. Hallucination is giving you an opposite feedback from what you want. So it is good that outside the fact that you know how to impute right prompt, because now the prompt engineering is becoming a skill that people are going after.
Prompt engineering.
Yes, prompt engineering. For instance, once you use your ChatGPT and you put on something, it's called prompt.
Okay.
So the more accurate.
So that's a special field of study now.
Yes, that's a special field.
You must know what to input to get the result that you are.
To get the right result that you want. Yes.
Okay.
So when people don't insert the right prompt, you get the wrong result.
Of course.
And then you put it in. So people must be aware that AI is prone to hallucination. Number two, organization must be careful, as to the kind of data you put in those tools. I saw something on LinkedIn, last week, and the person said that you want to build a company to compete with Google, and you are sending the info through Gmail. That was just a joke. But it's funny.
No, it's not a joke.
It's called daft.
Exactly. So that is what most people do. You want to build the next Fortune 500 company, and you are feeding ChatGPT your info. And you know that ChatGPT has the normal use, has a premium use, and has the enterprise use. And for the enterprise, what ordinarily other persons might not get, people using the enterprise for businesses, they get it because they use it to build their own models. So they call them foundational models, where they build other models from those models.
Oh, wow.
So when you put, exactly. So when you train those, when you now feed your organization code base to those things, it means somebody at the back end already have access to what you're building.
Information.
So your Nobel software or your Nobel idea is no longer Nobel because somebody already has it.
Okay.
So we must be careful as to what you feed it.
Mr. Adoye, what challenges might arise in implementing AI for good governance?
Implementing AI for good governance is quite a novel idea, quite a good idea. But implementing AI for anything, I think first and foremost, if you've been involved with any project within technology or outside, it's basically, I think it's the having the stakeholders buy-in. I think that's the first thing. If you don't have the stakeholders buy-in, you onto a very uphill task, because with AI, most stakeholders don't understand AI yet, and I think that we need to take 2 steps backward and get the stakeholders to actually understand AI in its current.
Pause, Mr. Adeoye. Will it lead to job losses? Because that is one reason people will have a pushback.
That's something I hear all the time, and I always laugh. And I'll tell you this reference. So if you imagine, before we had the World Wide Web, there was never an SEO manager, search engine optimization manager. So when the World Wide Web came, we now have a search engine optimization manager. So I imagine there were some postal offices or post office owners who have been jittery, thinking about what email would do to their business. So in direct answer to your question, AI is going to create more jobs than those it may take away.
Oh.
Yes, there will be some jobs that will be lost, but then you will then have, my colleague here mentioned things like prompt engineering. There are companies and individuals that will begin to offer those training. There will be chief AI officers. There will be data scientists who are probably not going to be employed before. There will be different opportunities in AI that the jobs that AI will create will be more than what it will take away. So I think we should embrace it, because I think it is a misunderstanding that AI is going to create unemployment. Rather, given the case of Nigeria, we have a youthful population. It's going to create a lot of jobs.
You know, don't blame, pardon me, because we are running out of time. Don't blame those who are afraid. Because, for instance, there is no longer personnel managers. We now have HR managers. And so, while you will lose some jobs, you create others, but you have to upgrade skills, you know, for those ones. Well, this is a conversation starter, gentlemen. We definitely will be engaging you from time to time to take this further. Dr. Adeoye is an AI transformation leader with more than 30 years experience in this space. Thank you for your time, as well as Kingsley Owadara, AI ethicist and researcher. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you.